Welcome back to Wrestling Roundtable Radio here at blogtalkradio.com/Wrestling Roundtable, simulcast on Go Fight Live and WrestlingRoundtable.com. The number to call is 347-857-4647. Please call to share your thoughts and opinions on the latest goings-on in mixed martial arts and pro wrestling. There's a lot to talk about tonight, and we will cover, hopefully, all bases. Don't just stay in the chat room over at WrestlingRoundtable.com. Get on the air and share your thoughts. The number again, 347-857-4647. Thank you for joining us after NXT on Tuesday nights, 11 p.m. on the East, 8 p.m. on the West. That's in America. It's 4 a.m. in England or the UK if you're staying up late to watch then. Some of our fans do, and we thank you for that. We also want to invite you to go to WrestlingRoundtable.com, which is the hub for everything Wrestling Roundtable. Join the community. Sign up for the message board. You can get the news, bios, columns. There's been tons of reader-submitted material, reviews of pay-per-views, especially lately old ECW pay-per-views, funny enough, and lots of guest columns, as I mentioned. Also, some of our writers for the site, Zach Fellows, covering Smackdown, and Bill Treadway, after a little absence, coming back. There's going to be lots of content updated on the site this week, and one of the ways you can show your thanks is shopping at WrestlingRoundtable.com store. You can get the Wrestling Roundtable t-shirt and support the show. Wear it to Raw or some maybe local MMA show. Hey, what's that? It's this cool show and website. You should come join us. Check us out. So you can also get the Pro Wrestling Respect DVDs. Yes, the Wrestling Roundtable promotes wrestling shows as well, and we are all involved in that. Commentating, announcing, editing, etc. We're all involved with Pro Wrestling Respect. You can get those DVDs at the store, but if you want to shop at Amazon, get anything at Amazon through our Amazon store. Doesn't have to be wrestling or MMA. It can be anything that's available on Amazon. Just do it through our store, please, and we will get a percentage, a little way. You can say thank you for everything we're providing here as far as content goes. And now, introducing the panel for the night. Up first is Rodney LeConte. Hey, yo, Rod.
Hey, yo, Eric. How's everybody doing?
We're doing okay, but we want to know what's the latest going on with you, Rodney.
I've just been in touch with people from Connecticut about doing some commercial work for a medical office, so we're still in negotiations with that. And unfortunately, I had a back injury, which has stopped me from training for the past week, and next week is the earliest I train. I tell you, Eric, I know you've had injuries, and someone telling you you can't work out is probably one of the worst feelings in the world.
It does suck, especially when you have an expensive gym like I do.
Yeah, my freaking training costs $150 a month, and it's 2 weeks just wasted.
Well, what sort of injury do you have?
See, I started waking up with, my lower back just, I don't know, I thought maybe I slept wrong, and it only lasted maybe, 10 minutes after I woke up or whatever. But then, last week, it started lasting all day. I scheduled a doctor's appointment last Tuesday morning. I went. They gave me painkillers, muscle relaxers, and I had to leave work early because sitting down I was in too much pain, and I haven't called out the next day. But, over the weekend it got a little better, but it still hurts to walk. It hurts to sit sometimes, but it's progressive, healing.
Yeah, it sounds like could be some sort of disc issues. I did have some herniated discs in my back last year, and driving 50 minutes to work really sucked sitting at the 90-degree angle because eventually getting out of the car was the most difficult part of the day.
Oh, I know. I can't even brush my teeth without putting my elbows on the sink to hold me up. It's sad.
Man, well, hope it's a quicker recovery than mine. It still doesn't feel 100% for me, but I can still get around decently, a little mobile. But we also want to introduce to the panel Will Brooks, who is in our chat room every Monday night during Raw. Hello, Will.
How's it going, everybody? I'm a little upset tonight, though. My Phillies lost, as well as some of my Flyers and my Sixers all last week. So kind of down in the dumps tonight, man. Hopefully talking about mixed martial arts and wrestling get me back in a good mood.
I think so. Will Vafides, who just celebrated his birthday. Happy birthday, Will Vafides.
Thank you very much, Eric. It was a wonderful birthday weekend. TLDWrestling.com is a brand new episode about my birthday that I celebrated. And not to mention, definitely want to get a new documentary DVD from you, my man. A lot of wrestlers seem to be commenting on it.
Well, thanks, and I'm glad you brought that up because I do know that this weekend at the Ring of Honor tour through the Detroit and Toronto areas, the Revolution shows that sold out. And I think this is the second set of Ring of Honor shows in a row that sold out of their copies of Wrestling Road Diaries. And from yeah, all I've been hearing so far is pretty much good things. And I'm real happy to hear that. It's very satisfying, and thanks for bringing it up. And like you mentioned, TLDWrestling.com, you've got lots of videos and merchandise over there, so check that out when you can. And if you can't find it, you can get the links over at WrestlingRoundtable.com. We've got the links to everybody's sites. And we want to bring on someone who was a regular caller and now a panelist from Chicago, our indie expert on the radio panel, Coriander Ake. Hello, Corey.
Hello, Eric. Hello, everyone.
Hey.
You know what? I'm in a good mood right off the bat because I said the call and someone has. So let's go to a call right off the bat before you even get started. Why not? 315 area code. You're on with Wrestling Roundtable. Name and location, please.
My name is Renato, and I'm from Utica, New York.
Hello, Renato in New York. What's on your mind?
Three things, actually, three quick things. I agree with the decision for Randy Orton to beat Christian. I think Randy Orton carried SmackDown more than Christian ever could on that end. And you could see the reaction when you watch SmackDown, the reaction that Christian got compared to the huge pop that Randy Orton got. So I understand to put the belt on him. I think Christian will end up being like Khali when Khali got the belt. An attraction, somebody you use, but no one seriously as like Edge, because Edge had that heel to him. But Christian as a face doesn't draw any pop as Edge drew as a heel, legitimately. So I agree with Randy Orton, and I also agree with the direction that TNA is going right now as far as with Eric Bischoff and having the belt on Sting, which I think he'll end up dropping it to Van Dam at Sacrifice.
Which we will be talking about in a couple of weeks. We'll get back to your third thing a little later on because you brought up Christian losing the title. We definitely will be talking about that. But to start off, we want to dive right into mixed martial arts. And why not? Because it was only the biggest MMA show ever, Rodney, that just took place in Toronto's Rogers Centre, formerly the Sky Dome. Of course, I had to be there. You know, it's funny, Rod, there's been 4 UFC pay-per-views this year. I've gone to 3 of them. And,
wow.
Well, think about this, too. The one I didn't go to, which was Anderson Silva Vitor Belfort in February, at least we made up for it by going to Strikeforce.
So, hey, Strikeforce is a very good show. That's been a brand that has been putting out consistent good shows for the past, 6 months or so.
Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, going to MMA shows, it's addicting. It's expensive as shit, but it's addicting. Because I remember I went to UFC 100 and 101 back-to-back, and if I had gone to the next one, which was 102 in Oregon, I believe, which was one of my favorite fights of all time, Couture Nogueira, oh, how I wish I could have been there. But,
oh, yeah, what a fight.
Yeah, it's like you go to so many in a row, you don't want to stop. And this one, it's great to be part of history. When you see the ad that they put together where it's that long shot of the arena and the graphics say UFC, November 93, 2,800 people, UFC 100. Oh, shit, I was there. And now this one coming up. It was really cool to be part of history. And even though I was in Atlanta for WrestleMania weekend, and I hate to always compare it to pro wrestling, but when you work in wrestling and you've been watching wrestling so long, you just can't help it. It's just the natural comparison that you make. And I didn't get to go around Atlanta too much at the beginning of the month of April, but WrestleMania is such an event now that it's almost like the image or the perception or aura of WrestleMania is the big draw. It's no longer matches anymore. It's just the event itself, and different cities are bidding for it to come every year because that, of course, brings in a lot of people. If you've got tens of thousands of wrestling fans flying every year to go to the same event, that's filling up restaurants, that's filling up hotels, parking garages, scamming people out of their money, overcharging. But it brings in a lot of influx to the city, and that is what UFC was really trying to get across with Toronto. It was a message really to New York, because that's what they've been emphasizing for so long. Look, if nothing else, New York, if we run in Madison Square Garden, do you know how much money you're going to make? And it doesn't.
Yeah, it will be ridiculous.
Yeah, and it really doesn't make sense that New York hasn't bitten the bullet on this yet. Even West Virginia just recently regulated MMA. There's only just a couple states left. You could count the amount of states left that don't regulate MMA in the United States and still have fingers left over. And New York, you know, the hub of everything. It's the capital of the industry of entertainment and the world and culture, all that shit. New York is the top, and they still won't do it. It doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you what, going to Toronto for UFC 129, Jim Ross just blogged that they really need to get away from emphasizing the number. Like, they shouldn't leave the title just UFC 129. It should be something else, like, I don't know, Vengeance or Judgment Day or something. But I don't really think it needs it. And I also don't think in the sense that it's, to a degree, yes, UFC is the draw in and of itself. But on the other hand, this was a sick card. If they were going to fill a stadium, which they did, this was a really great card to do it with. It wasn't top-heavy. I was looking forward to really every fight on the main pay-per-view. And going to the Fan Expo, as someone who's, you remember, Rodney, when we were in high school, renting UFC when it was the SEG years, VHS tapes, and watching this underground sort of subcult thing grow up into this 55,000-plus people stadium show. It was really cool to be a part of that. And even with the Fan Expo, Access Expo, it was really cool to be in a room full of MMA fans and see how it's grown into this huge entity. It was also interesting being around the streets of Toronto because, like I said, I didn't really get to see too much of Atlanta when I was in town for the WrestleMania weekend. I don't know exactly how much it took over the town, but you get the sense that every year it's the same sort of crop of fans that fly to WrestleMania every year, whether it's foreign or domestic. It just seems like people plan their vacations around it. People have kids now, and they seem to make it a thing. I got the sense, in contrast, that most of the 55,000 that went were Canadians. Now, there were some of us, of course, who made the trip from New York State, New Jersey, whatever, but I think it was overwhelmingly Canadian. And when you walked around the streets, man, Rodney, you should have seen it because UFC took over the town. Every restaurant, every bar, every corner, every parking garage, every street sign had UFC things on it. GSP headbands all around. And that reminds me also that it was, I think, the bootlegging capital of the country because every corner had people trying to sell or buy tickets, bootlegged GSP headbands, UFC merchandise, tons of stuff, and tons of hot women, too. I think, no joke, Rodney, there was this girl on the other side of Rogers Center where this old train station is a brewery now. There was this girl trying to sell these really bad GSP bootlegs, but she had the best ass I may have ever seen in my life.
Oh, my God.
Incredible. But let's get to the card itself. The pay-per-view didn't really have performances that delivered on the surface for the two title fights. The undercard was really good. I know some of the prelims aired during the broadcast, which is great because, like I've said on the show before, a UFC card or an MMA card, like a pay-per-view or Showtime, you end up seeing half the fights that night. So right off the bat, featherweight Pablo Garza got a flying triangle submission right in the first round on Yves Jabouin. A flying triangle!
I saw that. That was insane. They definitely showed that during the card.
Yeah, and that was the first fight of the night. Within like a minute or two, a flying fucking triangle submission finish. Incredible.
Wow.
Following up the second fight in the lightweight division, John McAdaisy defeated Kyle Watson with a spinning back fist knockout.
That, Eric, I had the same reaction to that knockout as I did. Remember when me and you watched Gonzaga kick Krokop in the head and knock him out? Right. Cause you heard Kyle Watson's jaw, you heard the impact, and you knew that was out. If it wasn't for Little Machida, that would have been knockout of the night.
Yeah, that's what was so funny because in the first two fights of the night, which didn't even air live, we felt like we saw the submission of the night and the knockout of the night right then and there.
See, I knew you were in for a good night.
Yeah, and up and down the card, lots of great finishes. Only a couple fights went the distance, But then we go on to the main pay-per-view broadcast. I was looking forward to seeing the lightweight Ben Henderson debut in UFC because I was a fan of his. I said his fight with Anthony Pettis in December was Fight of the Year for last year. This time against Mark Bocek, not so much. He got a unanimous decision victory, but it wasn't exactly a stellar blow-away showcase for Ben Henderson. Your thoughts on that fight, Rodney, Ben Henderson's first UFC match?
Well, I was really interested in seeing this fight because this is the former lightweight champion of WBC. He held it for a while and lost a pretty close decision to Anthony Pettis. Mm-hmm. And, here he is fighting a UFC guy. So to me, the first WEC versus UFC contest. I knew this could be pretty close. I would have been surprised if he finished Mark Bocek. I think it would have been as close as it was. I'm also surprised that Ben Henderson got the unanimous decision.
Because I scored it for him, though.
Yeah, I think he won the last 2 rounds. I could see, I forget if it was the second or third round, that was a little iffy. But, Mark Bocek is tough, so I just proved that Ben Henderson could beat, the bottom level, the top 10 of the UFC.
20 seconds is all it took for the light heavyweight Vladimir Matyushenko to knock out Jason Brills. I was thrilled that Brills got knocked out because I've been a fan of Matyushenko for a while. In fact, there was a really good article on a website I read before the show about how this guy's gone from the old school of UFC, left for some time, and now he's back. So he's seen the highs and the lows, much like Couture, and now he's in this stadium show, and he is the last IFL light heavyweight champion. I saw him defend his title in East Rutherford at the Izod Center a few years ago, and I've been a fan of his for a while, so he was a guy that never really got showcased on this recent UFC run. A lot of his fights ended up in the prelims and didn't end up getting aired, and the one show he did headline was getting destroyed by John Bones Jones, as, well, what do you expect? He said recently, hey, at least I got defeated by a prospect, a future champion, not some bum. I was hoping he would come back at 40 years old, and boy, did he. Big knockout on Jason Brills in 20 seconds. How do you think the veteran Matyushenko looked, Rodney?
I thought he looked great. I mean, this is the best I've seen him so far in the UFC. And what I really liked was the video package leading up to this fight, the different Greco-Roman suplexes that Matyushenko was showing. Didn't have to use his wrestling. I thought this would have been an interesting grappling match because Brills gave Little Nog a run for his money even on the ground. So I didn't know where it was going to go, but let me tell you something. I didn't think it was going to go like this. Good looks for Matyushenko. I'd like to see him and Matt Hamill get it on.
Someone that we're not going to see it get it on too much anymore, if ever, is Randy Couture, and that's because we move on to his retirement fight. He said before the pay-per-view that win, lose, or draw, this will be his last fight. And we talked about it last time, Rodney. I was hoping Couture would get a win on his way out, not to be. Machida breaking the losing streak that just happened to him for the first time in his fight career. After 2 losses, he came back with knockout of the night, maybe knockout of the year, because, well, Vafides, he used the fucking crane kick from Karate Kid, taught to him by Steven Seagal, of course.
Yep.
And it didn't go very far in the second round. Lyoto Machida knocking out Randy Couture. So your thoughts on this fight, Will Vafides, Randy Couture's retirement bout?
Wow, that was scary how he just took him out like that. I know it's been a while since we've seen a good Machida for a while, and boy, man, did he take him out. That was an awesome kick. I think it is going to be the kick of the year. I don't know what could beat that. The fact that he used a crane kick to beat a guy, it was exactly perfect. I don't know how he pulled that off, but he did, and he knocked him out. It was just like that, one of those oh shit moments. For the time I've been watching MMA, I've always loved Couture. Great guy, I love him. He put on some great matches. He came back, winning the heavyweight title. He's done well for himself. He had a moment going out, that's for sure. He enjoyed every fight that he had, so he never put on a bad show.
You just talked about the moment, Will, and what was really special about it being there is, like I said, I felt like it was a mostly Canadian crowd, and you could tell by the reactions that the Canadian fighters were getting. But despite that, even with the red, white, and blue stripes and the Team Quest, and he's the American Olympian and blah, 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 Randy Couture comes out, forget that Canada or whatever stuff. People just forgot that. Utmost pure respect for Randy Couture. This is one of the guys who's carried UFC on his back for who knows how long. Big star in mixed martial arts for a reason. He was getting a great reaction even just coming to the cage. Not to take anything away from Machida, of course, but even after he got knocked out, tooth knocked out of his mouth and went to the hospital afterwards, but even after the fight, yeah, Machida knocked him out, but we were on our feet giving a standing ovation and respect for Randy Couture's career, and it was great to be there to pay that respect to Randy Couture. So your thoughts on the fight between the Dragon and the Natural, Rodney?
You mentioned how Couture gets, all the respect in Canada. I think, just with the American flag and everything, he doesn't mean it as a way to taunt any other country. I mean, it's the same way how we love GSP. GSP will always get cheered in Vegas.
I know, but I'm saying, I'm not to cut you off, but what I mean by that is that's one of the nice things about MMA compared to pro wrestling, because that's what we always do. You're not going to get so much of that, ooh, he's a foreign guy, so we hate him sort of shit. USA. Even though, once in a while a USA chant will crop up in MMA, most of the people there will just be like, well, what's the point of this? It's not about that. It's whether we like the fighter or not. And it was just great to see that with Randy Couture.
Yeah, I mean, it really was great. It must have been insane to hear that in person. But the way this fight ended, I would have been surprised if it ended any other way than Couture getting knocked out. Think about the last time he fought a great striker, Chuck Liddell, all right? He got knocked out twice in a row. Now, I think Lyoto Machida is twice as dangerous as Chuck Liddell. Respect for Couture for going after this fight and knowing how dangerous Machida is. And last time he called out someone and really, had a game plan, it was Tim Sylvia, and look how that ended up. I would say out of the three main fights, if there was going to be an upset, I would have picked this one to be, just because you never know what to expect from him. Once Machida hit that kick, I knew that Randy Couture wouldn't be able to defend the kicks as much as he would like to, but once that hit, bam, that was it. I mean, a sucky way to go out, but at the same time, he got up, first thing he did, raised his hand, that's the Natural right there.
It's weird you said, how it was a moment, how he got kicked, and it's is that really the legacy that he's going to leave behind? It's the last thing we ever saw Randy Couture in the cage is him getting knocked out by a crane kick from the Karate Kid. It's kind of damn, that kind of sucks. But I mean, that being said, does this mean Steven Seagal is becoming one of the most sought after trainers in mixed martial arts now?
You would think.
Well, I guess so. But then again, you only train Black House, and they've both been kicking ass with it. So maybe he is going to become a good trainer.
Both of them really deliverable, really highlight reel knockouts he delivered. He's 2 for 2 so far.
Well, if the Karate Kid is Lyoto Machida, I think that they're going to make a ton of money if, the GSP headbands, they start marketing that drum from Karate Kid Part 2 for the whole crowd to start when Machida fights. I'm telling you, there's money there. Moving on, the featherweight champion, Jose Aldo, finally made his UFC debut. I was looking forward to this in January, but much like you, Rodney, Jose hurt his back in training, so he wasn't able to do it in January at the first Edgar Maynard fight. Made up for it this time with an appearance against Mark Hominick, the top contender. And as I mentioned earlier when we started talking about it, the two title fights weren't exactly blow-away performances. However, I think when you learn more of the stories after the fact, it kind of adds more to it. Now, Jose Aldo apparently suffering from an infection before the fight, didn't have any antibiotics. That's what they were talking about in his corner, according to translations. And they're not making any excuses, but some people were saying maybe that's why Jose Aldo looked like he was running out of gas, which is not like him. Maybe that's why he was off his game in the fifth round. Now, of course, the real story is that even in a loss, and I did score it for Aldo because I think he won more rounds, but even in this loss, Mark Hominick became the star of the show with that huge, I don't even know, bowl-sized growth on his head after those elbows with the blood just pouring into his head and looking like it could have stopped the fight, but no, the doctor gave him clearance, and it looked like he was going to win the title. I don't think anyone would have been surprised in that fifth round if they had stopped the fight. he almost won the title. So even in this loss, he still looked good. Did the sickness that Aldo supposedly have take away from his performance? Or is this more of a cautious Aldo we're seeing lately, like in, for instance, his pay-per-view defense last year against Uriah Faber? That wasn't a big knockout finish either. He went the distance with Faber, tore him down with leg kicks, not the highlight finishes that we were hoping for. Do you think it's Aldo being affected physically by this infection, or is he changing his style, Rodney LeConte?
I don't think he's changing his style that much. I mean, he's not that manic and veering after beating Uriah Faber, so he does still have that knockout instinct in him. I knew he was gassed out towards the end. I think he just didn't come prepared. I heard today on the radio that Tuesday before the event, he weighed 174 pounds. So he had to lose all that weight by that Friday. I've been hearing rumors about a weight cut. I don't know what's for sure, but I 100% agree with you where this is one of those very few matches. I can't remember the last one being maybe Chuck Liddell and Vanderlei Silva, where the loser really looks like the winner here. Mark Comic showed me a lot of heart. I didn't give him a chance, Eric. I'll tell you right now. I gave this guy no chance. For some reason, I don't know if he looks like someone who would be annoying if I was sitting next to them, or he just reminded me of someone that I know that's just really annoying and talkative. But
he seems like a quiet guy, though.
I don't know. Something about him. He looks like he would annoy me if we were in the same room.
Oh, please.
Like,
he's not the fucking situation or something.
But I was like, especially the first round when I saw Aldo's kicks, his Muay Thai kicks, tearing him apart, I was like, this could be over in the next round at best. And I was surprised at what as long as it did, and I was actually, by the end, rooting for Hamrick. Hopefully Aldo is smarter. He's supposed to be going against undefeated Chad Mendes, which I'm really looking forward to, because Chad Mendes is a very strong wrestler. He's 10-0. In Philly, Eric, he might be facing Jose Aldo.
He could, but you did mention those leg kicks. He seemed to lighten up on those as the rounds went by, and by changing his style, I know he knocked out Gambirian, but I just mean maybe is he being more cautious against certain opponents. But either way, Hamrick definitely came out looking great. You have to think he'd be in line for another shot at some point, but your thoughts on the fight, Will Brooks?
Hamrick is not a slouch by any means. That being said, Jose Aldo definitely hurt him, but at the same time, though, you were right. Like, Mark Hamrick looked really badass after this fight. Like you said, you hate to compare wrestling to mixed martial arts, but this reminds me of WrestleMania 13 with Bret Hart and Stone Cold. When Stone Cold was in the sharpshooter, blood dripped down his face, but he didn't give up. And that's what made it so over that he became the new face of wrestling. And I'm not saying Mark Hamrick's going to be that, but he's definitely a new guy that we got to keep an eye on now.
In the main event, during prime time, GSP said it's going to be the fight of the century. I don't think it really lived up to that. However, the welterweight champion George St. Pierre maintaining his streak of successful title defenses. Last time on the show, Rodney, we said we don't remember the last time this guy lost a round. Well, apparently 2 out of 3 judges disagreed with that because only one judge scored it the same I did, 50-45, in favor of GSP. What we didn't know, however, until after the fight was he did most of it pretty much with one eye. After that accidental eye poke, he still was able to defeat Jake Shields with not all of his vision intact. So do you think, knowing that, looking back, that really affected a lot of the fight? Or, like Jake Shields has admitted, did he not stick to his strategy? Everyone says, oh, if it goes to the ground, it's over. But it really didn't go to the ground that much. And he just said, oh, I forgot the strategy in the middle of the fight. I don't know what happened. Is this another indication after the Martin Kampman debut last year that maybe Jake Shields should go back up to middleweight? What do you think, Rod?
Well, there's a lot of questions coming out of this fight, Eric. I mean,
Many
questions, many concerns, because, like you said, like we talked about, like our WrestleMania, like people buy the event now instead of like the match, like how much of an event UFC 129 is and everything. It kind of got brought down with the main event, just knowing that the main event of this card did not live up to the rest of the card, especially with the Primetime Series. You have all this talk about Shields bringing in Phil Davis, bringing in Charles Sonnen. everyone's complimenting him about how good his grappling and his wrestling was. Why didn't it show in the fight?
We saw none of it, practically.
You saw none of it, and that was the part that was really intriguing me because GSP, past few title fights has fought pretty good wrestlers, very good wrestlers, and he's been able to come up with a defensive strategy by becoming a great wrestler himself, but he's never fought like a really dangerous jiu-jitsu guy, and this is why I was really intrigued with this fight, especially with Jake Shields' winning streak. But you tell me how many people would predict, or if you were a coach of Jake Shields, who would tell him to stand up for 5 rounds against GSP? It's not going to happen. I mean, granted, his stand-up looked better than it has before, but it was nowhere near GSP's level. Now,
especially with the last fight GSP had with Koscheck, which was pretty much all stand-up. We know he trained with Freddie Roach, who is Manny Pacquiao's trainer, the top boxer in the world, who just beat Shane Mosley this past weekend to no one's surprise. But this guy has shown great boxing and stand-up skills, and yet you stand with him when you're supposed to have great BJJ. Didn't make sense to me.
Didn't make sense either. And what really impressed me was he was able to catch George's first leg kick, and I was like, ooh, never even thought of that. But then he never followed through, Eric. He held it there and let George bring him to the cage. When someone on one leg is able to bring you to the cage, that's a problem. Like, you need to start finishing. You tell me this great wrestler, great grappler, couldn't take down a one-eyed GSP?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was 0 for 6 takedowns. You're a grappler. You go for 7. You go for 8. His striking, because it improved so much, the shots that he took were really half-assed, and he didn't really set up GSP with any sort of strikes. He could have easily set him up, but I did not see it once, and I mean, GSP got the W. That's impressive, but for Jake Shields, I expected more. He did good on his feet. He didn't get finished like people would expect, but what would a 2-eyed GSP do? What would the GSP from UFC 124 do?
I gotta agree with you guys. I couldn't understand why he was standing up for as long a period of time as he was either. Especially like if your guy has one eye, he can't see when the punches are coming off from that side. You think you stick to that side too. But bigger question now is though, who is GSP's next opponent? Because everybody wants Silva, but I don't think it's going to happen. Now people are saying it's going to be Nick Diaz.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because that was going to be my next question, because I said on the last show, and everyone seemed to disagree with me, is that they really need to start unifying a lot of these titles. Rodney, you disagreed because some of these divisions are kind of stacked, specifically the lightweight division, but I pointed out, well, what about the welterweight and heavyweight titles? I think those divisions, at least on the UFC side, could use it, and I think especially now with really no real challengers in sight on the UFC side, and I don't really think this Anderson-Silva dream fight is going to end up happening at this point. It just feels like almost the UFC version of Mayweather-Pacquiao, where it's a big, obvious super fight, but it's not going to end up happening. Of course, in this case, it's not because either one's a fucking pussy, but that being said, okay, Anderson-Silva versus Yushin Okami in Brazil is official now. How much? It just seems like every fight these guys have, they keep pushing it. Joe Rogan got in the cage again. Oh, there's been rumors about the Anderson-Silva fight. Yeah, again. And every time, whether it's Anderson-Silva winning, whether it's GSP winning, they keep pushing it, but it doesn't seem to end up happening. Why isn't a unification fight with Nick Diaz the obvious thing to do, Rodney?
Right now, it's pretty much the only thing to do.
Ooh.
Unless, he rests that eye and him and Anderson Silva, do it sometime in the winter, like a December card. George was pretty hesitant to make that lifestyle change to 185, as anybody would, because if you're winning, why would you want to change your lifestyle and
winning.
Go up against guys? Yeah, winning.
Guys winning. I'm going to stay winning.
Even his head trainer said that he would keep GSP at the same bulk. He wouldn't add an extra muscle. So he'd be a very small middleweight going up against a guy who could probably win the 205 title. With Nick Diaz, I mean, he's just coming off a big win. He just beat one of UFC's top welterweights. Now that he's in Zuffa's vicinity, why not go for it? I think that's what people are asking for.
I definitely am. I think Nick Diaz has the skills and is on such a hot streak, he deserves it. And coupled with the fact that...
I don't think he has a chance, but I think, he's put it together.
And with, like I said, such a lack of challengers on the UFC welterweight side, it's the only thing that makes sense. However, before we get off of MMA, I wanted to throw a question out to you guys because we got a question over on YouTube from Dagmus, and it is, are pound-for-pound lists pointless? I'm not sure if you have covered this in a video, but I don't understand why people rate Anderson Silva over GSP or vice versa. Both are great champions who have different styles. Maybe I just don't understand the concept, but if Aldo is number 3, does that mean he could beat anyone below him? Or perhaps his opponents are better than anyone else? It just really seems to me that these pound-for-pound lists are more subjective rather than scientific, especially when MMA math doesn't always pan out. It causes so much strife on forums and among fans in general. In my opinion, I think the conflict between who should top the pound-for-pound list is based on a much broader discussion of MMA as a whole, which is the argument whether winning a decision dominantly or getting the finish is justification for who the better mixed martial artist is. Essentially, he's saying, do any of these pound-for-pound lists make any sense? What's the point? Your thoughts, Rodney?
A lot of it is subjective. There's no official guideline as to what defines a pound for pound. I mean, you hear a lot of people in the media say it, you hear promoters say it, and obviously it plays out in the cage each and every time, especially when top pound for pound guys go against each other. It's basically set on skill set. It's pretty much within MMA fans, it's pretty known that Anderson Silva is the pound for pound best fighter just because he's never lost in the UFC. He has his technique is so unorthodox and has not been matched. The only time we really see him in trouble is with the Charles Hunter fight and, the backstory of that. Some choices are obvious. You really just have to go by win streak, and like you said, Eric, MMA math doesn't always add up, but MMA math can show some consistency.
Adolfo Ag, I don't know how to pronounce it, 3 in our chat room just gave his pound-for-pound list. 1 Anderson Silva, 2 GSP, 3 John Jones, 4 Frankie Edgar, 5 Cain Velasquez. But, Will Brooks, there's, like Rodney said, really no guidelines for this. You see people come and go. Like people said Fedor Emelianenko had to be the pound-for-pound champion right on the top of the list the other year, and he's not even to be found on it anymore, I don't think. So what are your thoughts on pound-for-pound lists? Just pointless fanboyism or something a little more to it?
I love them because as a sports fan, they give me something to debate about. And as sports fans, we all love to argue and debate and make claims and whatever. I mean, it's like
hey, we're here doing just that.
Yeah, it's like reading the preseason rankings of college football. And you look at the end of the year, the rankings at the end of the year, and you look at the preseason rankings, and they're completely opposite. They're never the same. But it's fun to argue and see it. Like, what? Why is my team ranked 23rd? That's bullshit. Or why is this guy ranked ahead of GSP or yada yada? It's just fun to argue about that kind of stuff when there's no clear-cut answer and there's no way you can prove yourself right. So it's just fun for fans to look at and debate and argue, and it gives writers something to write about.
All right, Dagmas on YouTube. The answer that Will Brooks provided is it's fun, and that's the point of pound for pound lists. Point of this show now is to move on to pro wrestling, but before we do that, want to get to some of the latest news items that are going to be on WrestlingRoundtable.com this week, some of the latest goings-on in the news. Zuffa recently announced a new insurance plan to cover all of their 350 contracted fighters' insurance in the event of injuries effective June 1st. No word on whether Hummer rampages on the freeway are covered, but Tito Ortiz is about to save a lot of money. WWE.com reports that John Morrison underwent successful minor neck surgery yesterday for a pinched nerve, with an estimated recovery time of 4 to 6 weeks. He was also scheduled to have surgery to reattach his balls, but he was too busy driving his girlfriend Melina to the airport so she could fly away to fuck Batista. According to TMZ, Shane Helms is being investigated for DUI following a brutal motorcycle crash Thursday night. Shane Helms suffered a broken ankle, broken jaw, broken nose, as well as other fractures. He needed 200 stitches. Looks like booze is the Hurricane's kryptonite. WWE Studios is planning a new horror film entitled No One Lives. The original title, giving Russo the book was considered too terrifying. And those are some of the news items that are going to be on WrestlingRoundtable.com this week. We also have some polls going on. Currently, what should The Rock have gotten for his birthday? Rock celebrated his birthday on Raw the other week. What should he have gotten, according to our list? You can go and vote now on WrestlingRoundtable.com as well as other polls. So moving on to the latest in pro wrestling. Before we do that, let's go to a couple calls and see what's on your mind. Abe in Augusta, Georgia, hello.
Hello, sir, in the roundtable. On the Christian thing, we need to calm down. It was not horrible. It was not the worst thing ever. It wasn't like he got a screw job, so calm down.
Abe says calm down. We'll be talking more about that later on. Let's go back to Renato, New York. What was also on your mind? I think the third thing?
Just defend the guy who gets bashed on the internet, and that's Triple H. As far as all the people who bashed him, is never putting anyone over. They forget when he put over Benoit. They forget when he put over Batista. They forget when he put over Benjamin on Raw.
Cena.
Cena. I mean, he's constantly put guys over. They may not like him because he's married to the boss's daughter.
Not in 2003, he didn't.
I mean, they may not like him because he's married to the boss's daughter, but, I mean, he really does give a lot to the business, and he has sacrificed. I mean, he could have easily broken Ric Flair's record, but it doesn't look like he's going to go after that. He's content with playing a backstage role. People need to get off this guy's back.
It's not like he doesn't put people over. It's just the way he puts people over. Like this past year in WrestleMania, how, Undertaker beat him, but it took the Undertaker a half hour to get in the back. You know what I mean? Triple H always looks like the stronger guy, even when he puts guys over. So he really is not putting them over as well as he could be. It's what the problem I think most people have.
Well, Undertaker doesn't need to be put over by anybody, and two, Triple H is younger than him, so of course he's going to look dominant. You know, I mean,
for example,
with his two bad quads.
What?
With his two bad quads.
Oh, and Undertaker has had no injuries. Yep. He hasn't had one injury, considering he's working hurt. Come on. Triple H is a younger guy, and that's why he looks better. And that was the point of the match. And you people are still 4 months later not getting that was the point of the match.
Corey, that initial quad injury happened 10 years ago this year.
Yeah.
Besides, don't you remember he came back with like 40 extra pounds of muscle on? I think he's much better since then.
Yeah, he injects himself. We know where that came from.
And you can't judge a guy who's now in charge of talent, who's now going to find talent that the other guy couldn't find.
There's no way I believe that story. There's no way I believe that Triple H sat down and was like, we need to get this to go. I think that's bullshit.
Actually, I heard he went after Karma.
That is what's out there, according to their news article, Eric.
I don't think you see he found him. Like he wasn't she wasn't on TNA and kicking ass on TNA.
It doesn't matter.
Like,
it doesn't matter.
He found her in the backwoods in Mississippi somewhere playing in some high school gym. Like she wasn't on TNA for a while kicking ass.
Besides, Will Vafita, if we're going to believe everything the company tells us, then, there was that terrorism that delayed WrestleMania 7 and other stories that they make up like that. I think they just gave him credit on their corporate website to make it sound a little more official. Let's move on to Extreme Rules, ladies and gentlemen, WWE's latest pay-per-view. I just can't believe that the next one is coming up in a couple weeks, and we're getting another version of Cena and Miz, another version of Cole and King. Didn't they fucking settle this or I should say, couldn't they have settled this shit at WrestleMania? Now we're going on to... I know I'm wrong in thinking that WrestleMania should be the blow-offs. That's not how WrestleMania works anymore. It's the beginning instead. But I can't get over it. Sorry.
I agree with you. If they were going to take the belt off The Miz and Edge less than a month after WrestleMania, why not do it at WrestleMania? But it would have meant more.
It would have meant a lot more.
Corey, you wanted to talk about first, though, the Michael Cole and Jack Swagger match against Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler. Jeez, when was the last time King and JR teamed on pay-per-view? Wasn't it like a New Year's Revolution years ago or some shit? Jim Ross wrestling on pay-per-view in 2011. Unreal. Country whipping tag match. Have at it, Corey.
I'm trying to figure out why this feud didn't end at WrestleMania. This is another one that they should have ended a long time ago. Why did you keep putting JR in the ring? We know he can't wrestle. We know he was never trained to wrestle. We know he doesn't like to wrestle. So the first time you put JR in the ring, that should have been a fluke. But this is what, his second, third match that
Third,
you've done?
this is probably like going on 6th at this point.
6th? Oh, God. I mean, I know they've stretched it out a few years, but once is enough. This was just a bad idea from the start. Ending the match by disqualifying Keenan Jr., what are we thinking? Please tell me I did not hear that.
Of course they're thinking to extend it, which is what they're doing. I want to take a break here and introduce someone who's been posting on our message board for a while, and she attended the pay-per-view that we're talking about now. Jen in Florida. Hello, Jen.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Jen.
Hey.
Now, you were actually at the pay-per-view. Where in Florida were you at again?
Tampa, Florida.
That's what I thought. And you've gone to FCW tapings. You actually got that awesome picture of the Rhodes family printed in WWE Magazine last year, didn't you?
Yeah, that was pretty exciting.
Well, was the pay-per-view exciting in person?
It really was exciting. We got to sit in there's these special sections, like suite sections. You get like food and drinks and stuff. But I mean, that's not like the best part. It was cool because we got a direct view at the ring, and like straight ahead was the entrance ramp and everything. So that was cool.
Sounds like you were a VIP.
Yeah, actually, it was one of those. It was one of those tickets. So I'm probably gonna, if I go to another event, I'm probably gonna get those because it's a pretty sweet deal. But yeah, it was great. One thing that was pretty neat was during the Cody Rhodes and Rey Mysterio match, they were heading out to where the concession stands were, and all the fans got up out of their seats and tried to like go out to watch them wrestle out there, but the security guards blocked them out. So that was pretty funny and entertaining, and the fireworks were great, and it's just a really neat experience.
Well, we were just talking about the country whipping tag match between announcers and wrestlers. What'd you think of that one?
Oh gosh, I kind of feel guilty for saying this, but the best part of that match was Michael Cole coming out in bubble wrap. I thought that was pretty funny. Other than that, I mean, it was pretty much like, it just sucked.
The opener was Randy Orton defeating CM Punk in a last man standing match. Some good reviews for this, but I want to hear yours.
It was a good match. I was honestly kind of surprised that was the opening match, because all of the merchandise, like the t-shirts and everything, had Orton versus CM Punk, and usually that kind of means that they're going to have the match like towards the middle or more towards the end, because it's kind of like that main event style that they had on the merchandise. So I was kind of surprised that was the opener. Mm-hmm. But Randy Orton annoys me anyway, so I was glad to just get that out of my system early. But it was a good match. I have to commend that.
Okay, well, following that up was the U.S. title match. The champion Kofi Kingston defeated Sheamus. Mm-hmm. Two guys that were seemingly mid-carders on the verge of breaking through to the main events. Of course, Sheamus was the champion, and it's just so odd to me that we're in a time, of course, where belts mean so little. There's multiple world titles. They put the belt on a guy to get them over, as opposed to, hey, you're over, you should get the title. It just seems kind of ass backwards to me, and he's dropped down since, but he seems to have somewhat of a resurgence since then. And Kofi Kingston, on the other hand, is a guy who never got a world title, but is real popular. You think he would have been on the track too, but they seem to be tearing it up in the mid-card in this tables match. What'd you think of the U.S. title defense by Kofi against Sheamus, Jen?
I actually liked that match. I went there not thinking that they were going to do that, because they didn't have that in the lineup, but then when they announced it, I was like, oh, cool, I get to see, Kofi Kingston in person, because, like you said, he's really over. He's got that entrance that just makes you want to do that. And, yeah, I was being a dork, and me and my sister were doing that that boom thing that he does. Mm-hmm. But anyway, as for the actual match, it was great. I thought the ending was good, because we knew that they were going to do something with tables, but they always, hide a lot of stuff when it comes to tables. Of course, it's not as crazy as it was, or in ECW or anything like that, but it was pretty good.
Well, you did mention the Mysterio Cody Rhodes match, Falls Count Anywhere. Were you upset that your boy Cody Rhodes lost to Mysterio?
Yes, I was, actually, and I was like the only one in the suite who seemed to despise Rey Mysterio, so I didn't care because I had my Cody sign. I was trying to support him, but yeah, no go, and that really sucked. But it's okay because Cody Rhodes passed out those paper bags for everyone to hide their faces. So and I took my own personal one with me. I think that should be a trend. All the Cody fans should wear paper bags over their heads.
Didn't the beautiful people do that first in TNA?
Yeah, but no one cares about the beautiful people. I'm sorry, I'm not.
If there's anything I care about, it's Velvet Sky's ass. Moving on, it's Layla L defeating her former partner, Michelle McCool, and we found out that the stip was legit, that she really was leaving wrestling, entertaining athletics, or whatever it is this week, presumably to tend to her husband, Undertaker, who's really winding down in his career, and there's no projection as far as his comeback goes, so maybe she's just going to spend some time with him at home. But either way, she really did leave WWE, and on the way out, she put over Awesome Kong, or Amazing Kong. Either way, she's Karma now. And what'd you think of this very short match and the debut afterwards? Doesn't it give Karma a little rub, I guess, to take out the former women's champion on her way out of the company?
Yes, I really liked how that setup was because I try to avoid anything Diva related as much as possible. Once I see anything on the TV, on Diva anything, I just switch it. In the pay-per-view, though, I'm glad that Layla won because of the two. She was my favorite. When they had that purple Karma stuff coming on the Titantron, I was like, it was just awesome. Her music is just so neat to listen to in person, and I just got
actually kind of the best theme to me that they've had in a while.
Oh, I agree. Does anyone know if Jim Johnston created that?
I want to know if he's with the company at all. I haven't heard his name in forever.
Because everyone has these songs that are already recorded by other artists, and
generic shit too.
Yeah, exactly, and it's so stupid. Like, it's all typical. Oh, I'm gonna kick your ass. Oh, you're going down. Oh, it's like, really, and it's like if I were to be a WWE superstar, I would want somebody to custom make a song for my character instead of choosing one. Oh yeah, that sounds like it could fit. Just because it's so creative and it's a lot more special to say, oh yeah, that theme was made for me, not like, oh, I chose that because it matched my character. But anyway, yeah, her theme is just so awesome to listen to in person, and just that force. So she was walking down just really slow, and just the visual of it with Michelle McCool, she's on her knees looking all helpless, and then you see Awesome Kong slowly walking to the ring, and it kind of looked like she was overshadowing her, this big huge force, and it was just a neat spot to see that. I was chanting Awesome Kong the whole time, and then people started picking up on it, and it was just really neat to see that. So if anything about that part, it was Karma or Awesome Kong coming to the ring, so that was my favorite part.
Well, Corey, you've been following Kong since she was on the Indies, even before TNA, so you always have thoughts on the Divas and what they've been doing on WWE TV. So what'd you think of the long-awaited Karma debut?
I like it. She goes to the ring.
Something positive out of your mouth?
Yes,
and it's in regards to female and professional wrestling?
Yes, it really happened. I actually like what she's doing. She comes to the ring, she kills random bitches, she smiles politely, she leaves. And she's so cute.
Oh, yeah, it was just great, and to see her destroy Michelle McCool was just even greater.
Poetic justice.
We will be getting to the title change that happened this past Friday that everyone's been talking about, but first, the match that set it up, which was Christian defeating Alberto Del Rio for the vacant WCW/World Heavyweight title. Yes, it's still the big gold belt, in a ladder match. And a lot of people were saying that this was long overdue. Christian deserved this. Maybe some people were cynically saying, much like Kane the other year, it's the Lifetime Achievement Award and wasn't ever meant to be anything. But we do hear that Vince McMahon changed his mind from originally putting it on Del Rio, as he should have a month ago, because he wanted that big moment for Edge. This was really what it was, Christian winning the belt for Edge, essentially. So, what do you guys think about Christian winning the title in the ladder match? Let's hear how it was live. Jen.
It was a really, really great match. I mean, it was spectacular. Out of all the matches that occurred that night, everyone was behind this one. It was like everyone went there to see this match, and everyone was, of course, behind Christian. They were just so lively and into it, and all the moves that they did, I mean, it was great. I wasn't really sure how Alberto Del Rio would do. I've only seen a couple of his things outside of WWE, but it was great. The chemistry was good. Edge showing up, of course, got a huge pop, and the end was emotional. It's hard for me to really talk about it and be excited, though, knowing the outcome that it had on SmackDown. It was great. It was spectacular. It had a great story to the match, and it was well done, and I felt a lot of the the hurt that they did in those little spots that they did with the ladders, but it was really special.
Corey, will Christian have a good match without a ladder involved?
Christian does his best to pour lamb out to slaughter. He just looked so peaceful and happy when he got that belt. Did anybody else notice that Brodus Clay's head burst into blood when his face hit the floor?
Well, he did need staples for that. Will Brooks, your thoughts on the ladder match with Christian and Del Rio?
I thought it was a great match, and like she was saying, like the crowd was behind it, and that always makes the match a lot more fun to watch when you have a crowd behind the match, because it makes you get it behind the match even more. Mm-hmm. I've always liked Christian a lot, ever since the good old days of Edge and Christian and the Brood. Him being champion was kind of cool. It was nice to see it. Before
we get to the Steel Cage main event, the tag champions Big Show and Kane defeated the Core in a lumberjack tag title match. How was that, Jen, in the match to bring you down before the main event?
It was okay. I was kind of like worn out with the whole Christian thing at that time.
Which is why they put it in that spot.
Exactly. I'm not that big of a Big Show fan, and if anything, I really wanted to see Kane's pyro, but it didn't happen. I was kind of upset about that, but I was happy to see all the lumberjacks. That always happens. They have lumberjacks. They have a big, huge battle royal in the middle of the ring, so that was funny. Me and everyone else in the area that we were sitting in, we just kept making fun of that name. Like, why is it cool to add another R to Core? Like, really? And what? I don't get it. When they had the Hardys and Dudleys, they had the Z at the end. Like, okay, that might have been like cool or attitude-ish, quote unquote. But
this spelling is so early millennium.
I know, but it's like the Core. I mean, whoever thought that 2 R's would make that like an it thing should be shot, because it's just and it's like, ooh, the Core, it's an extra R, dude, we're hardcore. It's like, yeah. Anyway, go die, please.
The Hodge in the chat room just said if they break up the Core, they should have Apple do it.
Oh yeah, and that only lasted like a day. I haven't heard that since he said that
fucking
double
draft
negative
ruined it.
Weird acronym. Yeah, it's like, yeah, Santina's another one. I'm not even gonna get started on him.
Well, the main event was a 3-way cage match. The WWE Champion, The Miz, defending against his former tag championship partner, John Morrison, and John Cena. I don't know personally why this couldn't have been a 4-way involving R-Truth other than he's black, but so it goes. That being said, Cena wins the title for a record-tying 8th time. He is a 10-time world champion, I believe, but this is the 8th time with this individual title. The title Buddy Rogers used to hold, and Bruno Sammartino. Well, Buddy Rogers didn't have it that long, but that's neither here nor there. Point being that the record is tied now between himself and Triple H for 8 times with this title. I just don't understand why this could not have happened at WrestleMania. Would it not have been equally as fitting an ending if Rock Bottom Cena thinks he's cost him the match, walks away, as he's on the aisle, Cena kicks out of Miz's pin attempt, puts him in the STF, taps him out, and then Cena gets to dangle the belt in Rock's face as they cut back and forth. Pay-per-view goes off the air. Doesn't that accomplish the same thing? Shouldn't they have changed the title then instead of the B show? Or does it not fucking matter? Because it's going to happen in a year anyway. Will Cena hold the title for another year and make it a title match against The Rock? I'm asking too many questions. Let's just see what's on your mind, Jen.
Don't jinx it. I'm really praying that John Cena doesn't win, because WrestleMania is going to be held in Miami, and I'm going to be going to that. I mean, Miami's like right there, but I don't want to go to a WrestleMania and pay like over $1,000 just to see John Cena win again, because...
Well, he should.
Yeah. Why? Because he's John Cena?
Exactly. What the fuck does The Rock need a win for? He's going to go away to Hollywood the next day. Cena's going to be there. It makes perfect sense for him to win.
That's true, but come on, I don't like Cena, so it's okay. Actually,
well, what about
the
match,
guilty.
Jen?
The match was good. It was good, like, as in okay, because I found myself, like, looking off in other areas and not really at the match, because, I mean, when it really comes down to it, obviously, it's two former tag team partners versus John Cena. It's a clusterfuck. There's no real story there. It's kind of like John Cena was like an extra with these two that had, like, more of a history than, you know, John Cena involved. And yeah, I wasn't really into it. I mean, there were a couple of spots that were neat, but other than that, it was mediocre at best.
Chronic Blaze in the chat room said, I thought the WrestleMania win for Miz would elevate The Miz, but it was in a BS way that did nothing but prolong the inevitable, and other people are getting on me for defending Cena, I guess. They just emphasize Cena sucks, but Kara said Cena doesn't suck, he just doesn't need the title. I never understood this mentality. I know people have made the case on the show before, but if you're the top guy, you should be the champion. That's my opinion. Top draw, top guy, you should have the belt. Your thoughts, Corey, on the three-way cage match?
I really didn't like that one spot where the three of them were on top of the cage, and they took that really sick landing. It looked like both Miz and Morrison didn't land right.
That was kind of scary to see.
I'm sure it was scarier live, but it was sure scary when I did see that on the feed I was watching. That was just, ooh, God, that was terrible. I was scared that they were just going to pass out right there. That was just awful.
They did a few times. They took little siestas, like, and people were like, are they okay? So that was kind of, like, freaky to watch. It was still a mediocre match, I gotta say. I'm actually shocked, Jen. You're the first woman I've ever heard say during watching a John Cena match live that they weren't fixated on John Cena. Usually, I'm kind of shocked that you're the first female I've ever heard not say that kind of thing. So bravo, you're congratulations. Thank you. I mean, the lady that was sitting next to me, she was with her boyfriend, and when John Cena came out, she like grabbed his hand, and everybody was behind Cena. Me and my sister were just looking at each other, like really about to vomit. You see it on TV, everyone's behind Cena. But, I mean, there were several people around us that were like, the whole Cena sucks thing. And I tried not to chant that because he's okay, but it's just the whole title reign thing that kind of gets to me. And I know it's not his fault because he's not the one making the decisions, but what you see on TV, you kind of misconstrue that with the wrestler, with the superstar, unfortunately, and that's just how it is, in my opinion. Yeah. What was it like afterwards when he made the announcement, then? What was that like? I wasn't expecting that at all because, I mean, everybody was getting up, and I didn't want to get up until, like, you know, the people started, you know, coming out to fix everything and take everything out. But John Cena was still sticking around, and he was heading up the ramp, and then some camera guy comes and stops them, and they have a little exchange, and you can't hear what they're saying, but you can see their expression, well, his expression on the TV above the ring. So he runs back towards the ring, he grabs a microphone, and he gets in the middle of the ring, and everyone just, like, kind of stops in their tracks. Like, even the people that had already left, they come back in, and, you know, they were just, like, everyone was, like, all standing around. He was like, everyone knows that I wear hustle, loyalty, and respect on my sleeve, and that, you know, I'm a big supporter of the military, and, you know, just talking stuff like that. And then he said that, you know, he's proud to announce that we've officially, he said, captured and compromised to an indefinite end Osama bin Laden. It was so surreal. Like, everybody was looking around like, what the fuck? Like, holy shit. Like, nobody could believe it, and everyone was, like, cheering and hugging each other and crying and chanting the whole USA, USA thing. And it was scary. Like, I had goosebumps, and I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but after that, I kind of felt guilty for, like, all those, like, bad things I said about John Cena afterwards. I don't know. I mean, it's not like he's the one who, you know, captured Osama bin Laden or anything like that, you know, but it's just like, wow, he delivered that message to us, and I feel kind of guilty for thanks. It sucks this whole time. It was very surreal, a very neat experience, and I really wish that my camera didn't give out at that time because I would have loved to have, captured
that. To bootleg it yourself?
Yeah, no, I'll just get YouTube downloader on YouTube and download the video and say it's mine.
Am I the only one, though, when the music hit at the end, the American music hit, was I the only one who expected Lex Luger to come down the aisle?
I wanted the Patriot.
I wanted Kurt Angle.
Ooh, Mr. America.
I was just getting back from Toronto after that long drive, and I heard it on the radio that President Obama was about to make that announcement, and I got home just in time with about 5-10 minutes to spare to see the announcement on TV. So it was really cool to witness history like that, and even more so for you, Jen, to be there for the now infamous YouTube clip of Cena announcing it. What will also live on in infamy is what happened this past Friday, which was taped on Tuesday. So everyone knew going into Smackdown this Friday what happened, which is Christian lost the World Heavyweight title to Randy Orton after holding it for only a few days, and the message board exploded, along with much of the internet. That's what we're going to get to now because, man, was there a lot of uproar about that. Some people are saying that we're overreacting, that this is just the beginning of a storyline. Some people think Christian will be turning heel. I don't think he'll come close to the world title again. Maybe that's just me because, after all, they are kind of desperate for main event stars at this point, so maybe he has a chance. But watching the reaction, which was huge for the title change, of course, some people were upset that it was Orton. I don't think that's the case at all. I think people are just really upset that anybody, if it was Mark Henry, there'd still be uproar if Christian had lost the title no matter what. That being said, if they really are planning on building SmackDown around Randy Orton, is it really the worst choice in the world? Because after all, he is one of the top draws for WWE.
It's just hard for me to talk about how good the Christian match, Christian versus Alberto Del Rio match was. I mean, because it was really great. The naive part of me, maybe WWE won't screw him over this time. And the fact that they did rubs me the wrong way. I don't like Randy Orton. I'll say that right now. I really don't like the guy.
We know you said he was annoying.
Yes, Randy Snorton is what I call him. Like you said, it could have been anyone taking the title off of him and I'd be pissed. But the fact that it had to be Randy Orton, who just got drafted over to SmackDown, I don't know why they have the draft. And to take it from Christian just a couple of days later, it just really bothers me. Because Edge is on his way out. They have the belt being given to Christian because they're best friends. It's kind of like, going away present in a way. And to just have it taken away since Edge isn't around anymore, it's like, okay, well, what now? I'm just really, pissed off that happened. A caller said earlier, don't freak out, guys, because it was a great match. It could have been the greatest match in the whole fucking world, and I would still be pissed off.
Amen.
So I don't care who says that match was great or whatever. And everyone calls, Christian's the Scrappy-Doo of wrestling. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I've been a Christian fan since the very beginning, since the Brood and the whole 5-second pose era of awesomeness. He's a great wrestler, in my opinion. Actually, one of my favorite matches is him versus Cody Rhodes from last year. He's really great, and he deserves the title, and to have it just stripped away from him like that, to be put on some guy that's already had world titles a couple of times, it just really burns me.
What made the Christian thing so special was that Alberto Del Rio and Christian never had a world title, which I think made the match even more better.
Because you knew that one of these guys was going to win the title.
Yeah, and you knew that one of them. Yeah, okay, shut up. A special moment because you always remember when someone wins their world title the first time. You always remember that, and that was one that I would always remember with Christian winning it. Now, I understand why they did it, why they have Orton winning, because if you have Christian beat Orton, it kills Orton big time because it's two faces, and then Christian is the face of SmackDown. If Orton didn't beat him, then Orton should never be the top guy. Randy Orton is bigger than Christian, no matter what. Christian's not in movies. Orton's in a movie for 5 minutes, but he's still in a movie. So the point is that
a straight-to-DVD Kmart movie.
Hey, man, it was at the San Francisco Film Festival. I mean, they were the top draw. Anyway, there is something going on with it because clearly they did a SmackDown rebound on Raw, which they don't do often. and they did it, so it was a big deal, and they made it look like how Christian just lost the belt that quickly. So there's going to be something building towards it, but Orton is the most well-known guy on that brand, and he should be champion. Just like you said, Cena was champion because he's the face of the show. Just like Orton's now the face of SmackDown. He needed that because he's been doing nothing for the last 2 years. He hasn't really had anything special, and now he stands out on his own. Christian will be a champion again. I mean, it was a special moment, and it was a good match, but Orton's the guy, you know. I mean, if you were running a promotion, you would put Orton over Christian any day. I don't care who you are. Yeah, I don't care how good of a wrestler he is. You know, that's just a fact. You know, the guy that draws is the guy that should be on top. And
okay,
now,
but isn't there something to be said for maybe they could have done it on the next pay-per-view, which is only a few weeks away?
I would say it's more of an element of surprise because now you have to watch SmackDown. For instance, the main event is not Orton and Christian. It's going to be Miz and Cena. So who cares about when they did it? They did it the night after, which made it even more shocking, which makes you want to tune into SmackDown even more now for Friday night. SmackDown's gotten so much better since this draft. That was a moment I think that was shocking, definitely. I was scratching my head at first, but then thinking about it, it makes sense. And now it makes you want to watch SmackDown to see how's Christian going to react, or is there going to be backlash against Teddy Long for that, you know, stuff like that.
Well, I think it definitely is indicative of them wanting to get people to watch SmackDown because I think they kind of lost their shit when Edge got that MRI and had to retire because I really think the chickens have come home to roost. What have we been saying for years on the show? They need to start developing legit guys, not just put them in there with the title for a month and then forget about it, like Swagger or Sheamus or whatever. Guys need to be elevated. Like, we've only had a couple in the past few years, and I've been saying, like, every WrestleMania, they've got a roster full of great guys who don't even get on the fucking pay-per-view because of time management and them wasting time, half an hour between entrances and bullshit with the Cole Lawler stuff that could have easily filled 2 or 3 matches back in the day, I guess. But
one thing I wanted to mention about the Miz losing the belt, I mean, he looks so weird now without the title because he's held it for quite a while. And that's why it was strange that Cena won the belt because I think Miz needed that belt because now he looks, naked kind of without it. So it is a little weird, having Cena on top and having Miz not be the champion. It's always more fun when the face faces the heel. It's never fun when the face is the top draw. Unless you're
not to me. I'm the only person, I guess, in the world that feels different. But I like supporting a guy when he wins the title. I want to see him hold it. That's why I think when that 1-year title reign Cena had a few years ago happened, it was great. It was a nice change of pace, and the chase is fine, great. But to me, the destination is the beginning too.
Well, I do agree with you on some level that the shock value that makes SmackDown a little more watchable, like makes people want to watch it a little bit more. So on the entertainment aspect, I get it, but I wouldn't have done it. At every stage of his career, at least in WWE and in TNA, Christian has always gotten over. When he was Edge's little brother, when he was an Edge and Christian, when he was doing the Austin Surfer dude gimmick he was doing, when he was in TNA, now he's back, he is the guy with the peeps or whatever the fuck his gimmick is now. He's always gotten over. And I feel that if he would have given him with the title and let him run with it for 5, 6 months, he would have gotten over. He would have gotten over really well.
Agreed.
I really feel like they gave up to it on that really way too quickly. Now I'm sure they're going to do a whole Christian Orton feud, which I'm sure there's going to lead some good matches because I think Orton's a good wrestler, so I have no problem with him being a champion. I just have a problem with him being champion over Christian when I felt Christian really could have carried that title and done very well with it.
We still got plenty of time for that, and Christian just got back, so you got to give it time. He may get it back right now.
Yeah.
You just need it to build the SmackDown brand. That's all they're doing it for.
They've only had 10 years to do that.
They're doing this absolutely the wrong way. The way that they took the title off of Christian was completely wrong. The first 10 minutes, we have this long video package about how great it is Christian gets the belt, how wonderful that Christian finally gets to live his boyhood dream. And then, all of a sudden, out comes Mark Henry and Khali and Orton. And Christian is told the fans are going to pick. One of these 3 guys is going to challenge you for the belt in 2 hours. And I'm looking at the 3 wrestlers that they chose, and I'm like, Khali, who's an enormous klutz, bless his heart. We've got Mark Henry, who is essentially Donkey Kong. Yeah, let's see how that match would have gone. Fresh meat. Okay, now we have Randy Orton, who before he had this match already had the belt 7 fucking times. And I'm sorry, but this guy cannot cut a promo. He's not a believable face. This guy is destined to be a good heel. He sucks as a face. He can't even do the RKO right. He keeps flubbing the move, which he managed to do several times in the match with Christian. He flubbed every other move. You didn't even wait a whole week. You didn't even wait for the next pay-per-view. You took the belt off of Christian, and I bet the reason is McMahon doesn't believe in him because Christian is 5'9". Once word hit the internet, Christian was no longer the SmackDown champion, and all hell broke loose. You want to know how WWE handled it? They handled it like a bunch of 10-year-old little girls. They sent JR and Randy Orton, and they even asked Jericho to do this. They had Jericho blasting people on Twitter. You guys are overreacting. You guys don't know. It's a part of the bigger picture. He'll get another shot. It's going to be okay. You guys are acting dumb. Really?
How do you know they asked them to do that?
Oh, come on. JR posts a tweet like that, and like 3 hours later there's
not
Jericho?
Jim Ross. I mean Jericho.
Oh, he had to have been asked. He's coming back. He got his ass booted from Dancing with the Stars because he dances worse than Kirstie Alley, apparently.
He's always
they
coming
asked him.
back.
Yeah. So you've got Jericho and Randy Orton and JR blasting people on Twitter. I'm sorry, are you a bunch of 10-year-old little girls? You guys are blasting the fans? And then you have Joey Styles join in too and say, hey, you guys need to lighten up. It's going to be okay. You know, Orton's a great champ. Orton's had the belt 7 fucking times, now 8 fucking times. Orton doesn't need the fucking belt. Christian could have used that belt. Christian has put up with the WWE bullshit and one dumbass storyline after another for, 12, 13 years? Certainly they took him in before Edge. And that's another thing, too. You guys got Edge permanently injured. He is never coming back. He is useless now. You pretty much killed off his best friend. You gave him the title and you yoink it off of him. And I see in the SmackDown spoilers that you're trying to have Christian team with Orton, like they're supposed to be buddies now until the pay-per-view. You know damn well they are not putting the strap on Christian, not unless we raise enough hell. Right now, they're looking at some serious rating issues. They did this to build the SmackDown brand around Orton to raise ratings. Well, here's a newsflash for you. The ratings dipped to a dismal 1.73. You guys are one step ahead of where NXT was when it was about to be canceled. You just did absolutely the worst possible thing to Christian, to Orton, and to SmackDown, because now Orton is not going to look so hot next week.
Well, first of all, the rating did dip. It's nowhere close to the NXT rating, but like people are saying, Corey, the counterpoint to that is the angle just started. Let's see where it goes. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with that. I understand your point of view. I understand other people's points of view. So lots of debate going on about this, as it did on our message board. It really lit up. So join us there if you can, but you're joining us live on the phones now. I want to go to some of you. 214 area code, you're on with Wrestling Roundtable, name and location.
Yo, my name is Vance from Dallas. If Christian and all them other mid-carders want to make it to the top, bottom line, they got to go to Vince and the creative team and demand to be put on TV. And when they are put on TV, they need to do something. Because that's the bottom line that ain't going on right now. I see it on Raw. I see it on SmackDown. They put these mid-carders out there, and they do diddly squat. And people on the internet, everywhere, talk about why Cena and Orton is on top. They on top because their characters work. Bottom line. They need to go to Vince and creative and demand their moment. Bottom line.
Well, don't you think that's also assuming that he's as upset about it as we are? Maybe he isn't.
Well, then, hey, man, then when next time you come on TV, cut a work shoot. Bottom line. Samoa Joe did it. Everybody else do it. You got to go and do it. Now, I know people have problems with Shawn Michaels, and all these things. What Shawn Michaels did, he went to Vince, he got the Vince here, and guess what? Shawn Michaels is a Hall of Famer now. People don't like it, but he did what he had to do to get to the top. And that's what Christian and all these mid-carders have to do. Bottom line, man.
Well, that was also a very different time period before the writings team on 2 different rosters. So let's go to 773 area code, name and location.
Hey, this is Ramon. I'm from Chicago.
Hey, Ramon in Chicago, along with Corey from Chicago. A lot of Chicagoans tonight. What's on your mind?
When I heard about Christian losing on SmackDown, I was depressed and shocked and angered, and I wanted to kill a small puppy. Not kidding. I might have overreacted, and I should probably see where this goes. But I never really understood Randy Orton as a face. He just seems so boring, you know?
That's because he talks like a robot.
Abe in Augusta, Georgia, any thoughts?
Maybe he come a heel. We don't know, but I find it funny. I had the lowest rating on SmackDown this year, and during the NBA playoffs, there was no playoff game whatsoever. So maybe because he was champion, maybe, but we don't know. But we all talked about it. Even whenever watch it, do you think that might have something to do with people watching it? I gotta ask something also about the spoiler alert thing.
Yes.
Do you think spoilers kind of hurt the wrestler business? Kind of, we know it's gonna happen, so we're gonna watch it or we're gonna hate it. Do you think it hurt or helped?
Okay, the perception always has been, and I think it's never truly been proven, that people aren't going to watch it if it's taped. First of all, if you want to go to a specific incident, and maybe it was only a one-time thing, we all know the famous story of January 1999, the first show of the year on Monday night, Nitro in the Georgia Dome, Bischoff orders Schiavone to give away Foley winning the title, which was taped the last week of December. Around 500,000 people tuned immediately to Raw, even though it was taped, even though they just got spoiled. SmackDown has always had a consistent audience for the most part. I mean, the ratings dip up and down, but it has its audience. I don't think most WWE fans do that per se. Of course, there is an IWC, as people call it, an internet wrestling community that knows all this stuff. But I think especially this week, WWE tried playing up or heightening the idea that Christian lost the title because it obviously got out. People knew about it. I think they tried getting some hype behind it. The rating didn't really reflect it, so maybe I'm wrong. Is wrestling ruined by not being live, essentially? Do taped shows not do as well?
Well, with the internet now, absolutely. It does hurt. I can watch it on Hulu, on my DVR playback. I got many ways to watch SmackDown without actually watching it. So I don't need to be there Friday night to watch SmackDown.
But you were just saying that they did this to build up SmackDown. And I made the joke, for all you people who are probably typing on YouTube that it's been 12 years, fine. I was just making a joke that SmackDown's been on the air for 12 years. But anyway, if the whole point is to build up SmackDown, wouldn't that make it more destination programming per se? Not, I'm going to watch it on YouTube, I'm going to watch it on DVR, I'm going to watch it live.
Well, let's just say that it wasn't taped, okay? Let's just go for that for a fact. So the rating is 1.67. So Christian won the world title, which is a big moment, and the rating is lower than it was last week. How many of you people really did care about Christian winning the belt if you didn't watch SmackDown to watch his first night?
I actually know the answer to that one. On Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, there were actually a large group of fans that staged a boycott in protest once they found out Christian was going to drop the title. So the drop in ratings reflects that boycott.
Oh, so then it's a good idea to not watch SmackDown so those wrestlers get no jobs. That's an even better idea. Let's not have any ratings for SmackDown. Let's cancel SmackDown, and let's fire 40 guys. That's the better idea. Come on. Just watch the show for entertainment, you know? I mean, just watch it. You know, the ratings didn't reflect what happened when Christian won the belt. That's just the bottom line. And rating and being live matters. When I'm at a live event or I watch it live, there's more impact and there's more emotional investment when you watch it live. When you're watching a taped show, so like if you saw the preview of Tough Enough, let's say you read the whole thing before Tough Enough aired, would you really watch the show? Probably not, because you already know what's happening. You know, at least this day and age now with so many ways of getting opportunities to watch something or get all these different rumors or anything, you're not going to watch that often because you already get the spoilers ahead of time. I think it does affect it But boycotting a show, just because something happened that you didn't like, is a dumber idea. When you want to watch and really see what really happened, just to see, let me not judge it. Let me watch it before I judge it. You can't judge something you didn't see.
But at the same time, the customer is always right, allegedly, and if these people want to vote with their viewing habits or wallet, that's their prerogative, and that's the idea. But I also don't agree with the whole, I'll just watch it, it's entertainment. I like to think more critically. I don't like the idea of, I'm going to turn my brain off and watch it. As Roger Ebert greatly said in his columns, the brain is where I enjoy things. But that being said, Will Brooks, Vafidez is saying that spoilers do matter. Watching live is important. What do you think? Is being taped bad?
I don't mind spoilers for, say, certain shows like Smackdown. It's not a real sport, so I don't mind knowing the outcome because I'm watching it for the entertainment of the match anyway. But I think spoilers do hurt, but I think they hurt more of the writing team because they want to keep it as, anything can happen. So sometimes the wrong people go over when it makes no sense to what you were just building, and just to keep the fans guessing when it really makes no sense to do so. So I don't mind spoilers as a fan point of view, but I do mind them from the writing point of view because I think it really fucks them up more. So.
All right, Jamal in California, you're on with Wrestling Roundtable. What do you have to say this week?
I really don't think it's really necessary for the top guy of SmackDown to be given the belt so soon, because SmackDown, at least from my perspective, had a track record of putting belts on guys who were not often the main event. Because if anyone can recall, when Jeff Hardy and CM Punk were feuding, pretty much both CM Punk and Jeff Hardy were just getting into the main event. Jeff Hardy never had a world title run, lost a big title match to Orton that Royal Rumble pay-per-view, and CM Punk was looked down upon after winning his winning Money in the Bank for the second year in a row, going for another world title run. And I was skeptical for that feud, but it turned out to be pretty much the best feud I've seen on SmackDown in a while. And now they're having Orton have the belt, and I'm just skeptical for this year's SmackDown. Of course, I could have turned out wrong like 2 years prior, because SmackDown already has a good roster. They have Sin Cara, they have Daniel Bryan, they have Sheamus. They could use those guys and some others to build a main event without putting the belt on Randy Orton. But if they want to get quick ratings, if they want to get the money, they could go ahead and use Orton. I don't like Orton whatsoever. But if that's what they do, fine. I just hope something good comes out, because after WrestleMania and Extreme Rules, I just unsure for the rest of the year. And I was actually positive for the whole draft that occurred on Raw.
I'm just unsure why they made the choice to take Alberto Del Rio off SmackDown as the top heel to be the top heel on Raw, I suppose. I guess the feud with Cena down the line or something, because we've talked about the Hispanic audience that SmackDown has. Sin Cara's there. You'd think that'd be a natural feud. But, of course, they also moved Mysterio off to Raw, too, so maybe they just lost their mind when Edge got his MRI. Oh, we got to shake things up. Who knows? Before we go tonight, the royal wedding happened the other weekend. I can't understand why people care, but it got me thinking... Why don't we do a radio-exclusive topic here? Best and worst weddings in pro wrestling. So I'm going to throw it to some of you first. Let's go to the best. What do you think is an example of one of the best wrestling weddings?
The one that I liked probably the most was the Triple H Stephanie McMahon wedding, because that was just hilarious how that was done.
Wait. Let me cut you off right there, because in a sense there's two. There's the initial with Triple H interrupting Test, where he showed a video, Dad, where he, quote, drugged Stephanie in Las Vegas, and I hate you, which I thought was pretty funny and a good storyline, too, and it ended up being that she was in on it all along, and she turned on her father at Armageddon. Can you believe that? The last WWF pay-per-view of the millennium, 1999, ended with Vince McMahon main eventing against Triple H. But
well, that's the one I meant. I didn't mean the one where they got divorced.
Yes, I was going to bring that up, where they were going to renew their vows in, I believe, February 2002, where Stephanie had that really hot outfit that her father was checking her out in, and she had that nip slip. I thought that was a really awesome finish with Triple H's I guess, face character that didn't work out too well. But at least that segment worked out really well. So I think any wedding involving Triple H and Stephanie on TV has been pretty good.
Yeah,
but what's your other one?
Yeah, that was the one, and my favorite one, and I always watch it because it was so good, Billy and Chuck's wedding. That wedding was hilarious, and the ending was phenomenal. I loved it. Billy and Chuck getting married, that was pushing the boundaries. They were actually showing that on news and a lot of places that they were going to have a wedding between two guys. You know,
I'm on the fence with that one. On one hand, they had been wanting to do the gay wedding thing for a while because initially they, I guess, had wanted to do it with Too Cool, who was too much before their dancing gimmick, and they had somewhat of a androgynous gimmick. In fact, I remember them riding out with the DOA one time. What was that about? With their helmets. But they finally got to do it with Billy and Chuck. They got a lot of coverage. Glad gave them a fucking flower basket or some shit for it. But they got a lot of coverage for it, but they pussied out. They didn't go for it, and they had the reveal, oh, we were just pretending to be gay. And in a sense, the Bischoff as the old man in the makeup thing, which was awesome.
Yes.
It was also stolen from Three Men and a Little Lady.
Kind of made up for it. And I did like the 3-minute warning beatdown, but it really didn't go much anywhere. They did have a tag match on the next pay-per-view afterwards, but you think with all this publicity they would have made 3-minute warning and Billy and Chuck too a little bigger stars than they were. But I'm kind of on the fence about that one.
When the SmackDown Raw was really separate, you know, Stephanie and Bischoff were competing really against each other, which made it Raw and SmackDown a lot better. That they were competing really, and the general managers were having problems, and I thought that was a feud that I really liked between those two. It only
even though it ended up going nowhere.
Yeah, it ended up going nowhere, but it was still fun to watch. You know, those two actually interact with each other. It was really good. So that's why I liked it. I think the interaction with Stephanie was good. The whole wedding setup, and the old man, I thought Bischoff did a great job in that role. That was just, Bischoff gets so underrated for a lot of things, but that was one thing I always remember from him. When he did
especially with all the shaking and the voice and the makeup.
3 minutes. They were a cute couple, but I think if they were going to do a gay wedding, they should have gone with DX.
You don't know how much I would have loved to have seen Triple H and Shawn Michaels make out on TV. I would die laughing.
We'll probably do it.
Shawn snogged him at least twice on different Raw tapings. I've got one of the clips on my computer, actually. And they make such a cute couple.
Them and their banana. Lawrence would be remiss if I didn't mention probably his favorite wrestling wedding, which was Uncle Elmer's back on Saturday Night's Main Event in the mid-'80s.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Which was a real fucking freak show, as I guess it should have been, but Ventura ripping on them the entire time. Tiny Tim was there. Albano put some midgets in his beer gut. And, of course, the big fight at the end of it. It was just such a freak show, but a fun one. But, of course, we can't go without mentioning Macho Man Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth. SummerSlam 1991 at Madison Square Garden. Of course, they had been married in real life for years before that. But, man, what a great culmination for longtime fans like us. Even though it eventually was used as the springboard to bring Savage out of retirement with the Jake the Snake feud, this was one of the few, maybe only, wrestling wedding that ended uninterrupted on TV at least, and it main evented the pay-per-view, so it really gave it something special. It was the last It was the last segment on that pay-per-view, and it really deserved to be, and especially with the tie-in, the theme, Match Made in Heaven, Match Made in Hell. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. And, of course, we all remember the classic line, Will Brooks.
Elizabeth, will you marry me?
I know you've been waiting to do that for like 2 hours.
I loved that wedding.
Not only was that a great show, but that wedding tied it all in as like one of the best pay-per-views of all time. Definitely a special moment to watch, especially when I just started getting into it. Not knowing who these characters were, but still getting involved. One thing they didn't show was the wedding after party on SummerSlam, which I was kind of surprised. When did how did they release that part? Do you remember?
I remember them airing it on the next Superstars.
Yeah, it was on Superstars because they had Bobby Heenan talking about it, and they had Paul Bearer and a very young Undertaker, and they showed the whole thing with Elizabeth screaming, and there was Jake the Snake, and then she's screaming, there's cake everywhere, and Paul Bearer can be heard, oh, yes!
And don't forget Sid saving at the end. It was a really good angle.
Yes.
And Undertaker with his great big trench coat, just kind of playing, really.
Everyone was just
adorable.
so good at their acting roles, let's say, back then, because when Jake and Sid had their confrontation, it seemed like they were legit heated and yelling at each other. It was really well done. But some things were not as well done, and that means we're going to have to move on to some of the worst wrestling weddings. So I want to know what's on your mind for that, Corey.
WCW Clash of the Champions 96 in Las Vegas, when Sherry Martel almost married Colonel Robert Parker, and then it was revealed that Parker was in the limo doing some untoward things with Medusa, and then that just ended in a great big ugly cat fight. That was done a little bit in poor taste. Kane and Lita's wedding, Oksana and Goldust's wedding on NXT. With Kane and
oh my God.
Kane and Lita. That was just a freak show to me with the midgets, and the organ music for Kane's theme was kind of cool, I have to admit, and Kane did look pretty funny in that white suit. But I was just hoping that when Matt Hardy ran in, it was going to be a big swerve, and instead of attacking Kane, he pushes Lita off the stage, and then he marries Kane. Why couldn't that have happened?
Because Kane's not gay.
All wrestlers are gay. Moving on, Wilva Fidesz.
Edge and Lita, I didn't like it. It didn't make sense because everyone knew they played the Matt Hardy music. That was probably the only good part about it, was that they teased it, that he was kidding around with that. Because everyone knew Matt Hardy was like on his way back, and
no one knew until that moment, I don't think. And in fact, I don't think they even intended on doing it just then. I think it was the situation where they did it just to be heels, but the reaction it got made them be like, oh, I think we need to bring this guy back.
And I never liked the Kane. It wasn't believable. So that one I didn't like. And the Vicky Edge one I didn't like either. It was just so not believable. I really feel like it might actually be somewhat true, but I just can't with that one. Just with Eddie Guerrero and all that, that just was wrong to me. I had a bad taste in my mouth on that.
I feel that Lita's character made a terrible decision in dumping Kane for either Edge or Matt Hardy. I mean, think about this, okay? For all the crap that Kane gets, he's 7 feet tall. He's a good Jewish boy, and he's got strong family values. Maybe not so much with his brother
Jewish?
and his dad.
Since when is Kane Jewish?
Since he put it up in like a blog and an interview, and like 12 other sites reported it ages ago. But he's got a stable job.
That means... never mind.
He's got a stable job. He's got his faculties about him. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do drugs. And he wanted that.
How do you think Katie Vick got killed? This conversation sucks. So
he wanted the baby with Lita. I mean, come on. How many times are you going to see that? Do you think Matt Hardy or Edge would have stayed with Lita if she said, I'm pregnant? Matt, maybe, and then he would have done a horrible YouTube video about it. Edge? Oh, no, he would have bailed.
I'm bailing on this. That's going to wrap it up for Wrestling Roundtable. And you can post your thoughts if you have some more on the Wrestling Roundtable message board. Always open for discussion. We'll be back in a couple weeks to talk about TNA's Sacrifice pay-per-view, WWE's Over the Limit pay-per-view, and more. So for the panel of Will Brooks, Wilva Fidesz, Rodney LeConte, Coriander Ake, and I want to give a special thanks to Jen in Tampa, Florida. Also want to mention Dave and Dane in Dearborn, Michigan, and Steve and Graham from the message board, who I met out in Toronto. Thanks to all of our Roundtable fans I've met out on the road, especially that guy in Toronto chanting Roundtable. Thanks a lot. And thank all of you for listening in. I'm the host, Eric Santamaria. Join us on WrestlingRoundtable.com.